Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I am your host, Death Doom, the Destructor. I do hope you all are having a good day today. Thank you very, very much, Blue of Alex, for the sub. Very much appreciate it, sir, as always. Okay, apparently that one's a repeat. And Dream Whisper is a repeat, too. I'm just getting all kinds of repeats. I get how it is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the killing. Except I don't have my knife. How am I going to kill people without a knife? I always try to start these off with show news so that people who don't care about the rest can, join in. So I'm going to try and talk about that as soon as these subs stop coming in. Thank you very much, Ciela. Very much appreciate the sub. Thank you. And if you happen to know where you want to put that, please let me know, and it shall be so done. Assuming that's a real one. There we go. Okay. First and foremost, before we move any further, you might have noticed that we're not actually talking about Sonic the Hedgehog today, for anybody who's actually been checking the website. There's actually reasons for that. It boils down to my niece wants to see the movie, so we've had to reschedule. So I'm not seeing the movie until the 29th. That's assuming we can get tickets on the 29th, which at the moment has been a hassle. They're not even showing. Check this out. So if I go to check for tickets on the 29th, it'll be like, no, we don't have any tickets available on the 29th except for this one showing, because they haven't set up tickets on the 29th, right? Yeah, I'm double checking right now to make sure I'm correct. Yep, they still haven't done it. However, if I scooch forward to March 7th, hey, look, they've already got tickets for Onward. Whatever. The worst part is, for reasons I'm not going to go into, whether we see Onward as a full group depends on what happens on the 29th. So we can't even buy tickets for Onward until we're done watching Sonic. So anyways, Sonic's being pushed back. I haven't put it up on the website because, again, I haven't even been able to secure tickets. It might be pulled out of the theaters. I don't know how well it's selling. I haven't been paying attention. So we'll see. Next thing I want to talk about. Usually, the second half of the day, we don't do another stream because I go and do, errands and cooking and cleaning and all sorts of fun stuff like that. However, I ended up absolutely cramming, and rather than taking a break, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I ended up going out and doing all that stuff then. So, we're actually going to be starting our stream for Rimworld today. That'll be 3 p.m. EST, aka the second block of streaming. So, for those who care, we're playing Rimworld today. Now, I have two somewhat major show topics to share with you guys. Show topic number one. How many of you guys have been to the website since yesterday evening? It's okay, I imagine the answer is none of you, and that's fine. But if you can do me a favor, go to the website right now. You may or may not have noticed that things are completely different. It's okay if you don't notice it, I understand. But I am curious how many of you can actually tell at a glance if anything's new or changed or whatever.
Zug zug.
There's actually two things that are changed, but the other one doesn't really matter for the purposes of this. I'm just going to tell you. So, no, the sorting's been in for months at this point. We're totally cool on that. Although, as of about a week and a half ago, we have the ability to sort by funders. The priority list isn't actually longer, no. It is exactly the same as it always has been. And by always has been, I mean since we put in Rimworld and Empire at War and Battlestar Galactica and Sexy Battalion and all that. So it seems the same. Okay, now if you were to sort by funding level, you may or may not notice that it goes 350 to 271 to 344, to 348, to 325, to 224, to 353, and so forth and so on. Now, one of the things that I have received as a very common complaint from a lot of people, including one of my actual real-life friends, is how do I figure out, whether or not something is actually priority? And I'm like, well, I mean, I just eyeball it. And that's always been my answer. I just do it by GMing it, I look at them like, okay, well, that has that many people and that much money, therefore that's higher than this, and blah, blah, blah. However, again, I have received many, many, many complaints, including as recently as 2 days ago, from people who are like, well, how do I tell what's going to be next? What's the next priority? And I'm like, well, you just eyeball it. However, I've finally decided, okay, I shouldn't say I have decided. This is something that I could undo very easily, because I still have the backup of the original sorting algorithm, which this took a while to do, because I had to do this manually, which is why we're getting into the math here for a second. What it is right now is the formula is actually very simple. Every funder equals 0.1 of funding. So if you have 10 funders and $100 put towards it, the priority factor, that's the wrong number, the priority variable is 100. Make sense? That's the current thing that you have up on the screen right now. Now, oh, Jesus Christ, Tazara. I'm ignoring that for a minute while I keep talking, because I want to get all this out here. The point being that this is, the whole idea here is to make it so that there is a flat formula that people can see and that I can then sort by, so people can look at it and be like, aha! Behold, I can tell that, right now, Battlefleet Gothic 2 is the highest priority stream. Here's the problem, though. You guys can't see this, of course, because it's all under the hood, but Battlefleet Gothic 2's priority is something like 900. If I was to scroll down to, I don't know, let's say Trails in the Sky 1, its priority is closer to 50. So I spent all the time and effort at work to do this, and again, this is all done manually, because what you're actually seeing there's the way I'm kind of brute forcing this. In fact, I need to ask someone to help me change the funding level to something else. Probably call it like priority level or something like that. But what it's doing right now is I have effectively changed its funding level, the amount put towards it, to whatever the finished result of the algorithm is, and I have the algorithm being calculated in a separate sheet. And then I just leave the actual amount donated in the text, because that's always just been text. Like that's never been part of the sorting algorithm. So the catch here is I looked at this, and if you look at this, you'll notice that the top, say 6 games are very funded. There's a bunch of games that are kind of funded. Then there's a whole lot of games that are not funded at all. Like if you notice down there, like Mario Galaxy 2 is way down there, despite having $193 put towards it. And I didn't like that. And I started thinking, well, okay, how do I fix that? How do I adjust that? Because I do want both to be part of the formula. Now, I asked people on Discord, and nobody could help me, but I did come up with an idea. However, it was even more manual than what I was already talking about. The idea was basically this. I'm actually going to copy-paste this into chat. This is the new formula I came up with. The way this works out is the first 5 funders count full, the second 5 funders count half, the third 5 funders count quarter, and so forth and so on. Each additional group of 5s counts for half of the previous group of 5s. It turns the thing from this into this, to put it simply. Now, that works actually great. That's pretty much the exact formula that I want. Here's the catch. I have no way of automating that whatsoever, and I have to rebuild the formula every single time a new funder is added to a game. Like, for example, if there's 13 funders, it would be equals x times y plus x times 5 divided by 2 plus x times 3 divided by 4. That would be 13 funders. That's the formula. I can do that. It's going to take forever, because I have to do that for every single game, which is well over to the hundreds range. And again, I have to rebuild that formula every single time anything has happened. Now, that won't be a huge issue once it's all done, but that's going to be over an hour or 2 or 3 of work just setting that up in the first place. So I'm like, surely there's some way to set up a math variable for that. Well, if anybody has any ideas, I'm listening, because the answer is no, to near as I can tell, although I don't actually know exactly the answer here. Now, let's move on to the next thing, though, because I'm like, okay, this is not feasible unless someone can actually, tell me some way that works. I did come up with another formula number 3 now, which doesn't do, it's not the same curve, and it's not to the extent the curve I wanted, but it is a similar type of curve. It's still this type of curve, whatever the term is for this. I have no idea what it's called. What language is my algorithm made? Math. Y equals x times 5 plus x, 5 over 2. I don't understand that question, so I'm just going to move on. Is that that doesn't sound asymptomatic. Now, Hazardous keeps saying use Excel. I actually already reached out to a friend of mine on this, and his response is not worth the time and effort. And I said, okay. I just walked away from that. I did come up with another possibility, which is simpler. Again, it's a less of a curve, but it still accomplishes the same thing. And that is this formula. No, not that formula. This formula right here, which is y equals x. Excuse me, y equals the... Oh my god. Y equals x times the square root of z, basically. So in other words, rather than being in brackets of 5, which you know kind of fits the color scheme we also have going on, every single additional person adds less than each next person. So for example, that would go from, you know, again, I actually did a whole thing here. So for example, if $100 have been put towards a game and one person has donated, that would be 100 interest. If 2 people have donated, that would be 141 interest. If 3 people have, it would be 173 interest, and so forth and so on. Each time the amount of increase decreasing, you know, this kind of curve, like I said. Yeah, that's exactly it, Weods. That's exactly what I'm doing. What I'm talking about right now. So it works. It's less of a down curve than I would like, but it does in fact work. To give you an idea, for example, right now, under the system we have that is live on the website right now, Battlefleet Gothic's priority is 945, and Thronebreaker's priority is 841. If I was to change this to the square root thing, it would instead be Battlefleet Gothic's priority is 3,412. And hang on, I got an email in stream. Sorry. Overthinking? Well, actually, that's interesting, Craziness, that you say that. Because the answer is no, this is definitely not overthinking. All I'm trying to do is make a way to make it more automated. Because ultimately, what this is actually about is simplifying the system from everyone's perspective except for me. All this is about diminishing returns. That's the entire point here. And I am trying to make it so that, again, the priority, because that's what really matters to people, the priority is going to be very quick and simple and easy for anyone to glance at, including me, I might add. I can just go and check the website and be like, Battlefleet Gothic 2 is next. Done. Right? That's true for all 3 versions of the formula, by the way. Anyway, so like Battlefleet Gothic 2 under the different system... Actually, hang on, is it 945? Sorry, I said that in the reverse. So under the current system... Sorry, let me retry this. Under the current system, Battlefleet Gothic 2's priority is 3,412, and Thronebreaker's priority is 2,690. Under the logarithmic... So what? That's with this. Everything linearly straights up. If I do the logarithmic thing, Battlefleet Gothic's priority is 945, and Thronebreaker's priority is 841. Now, I'm talking all this out because switching from one to the other involves manually calculating everything, and then manually changing all the variables. Because I have no way to math that within the thing. All I have the ability to do is put a number in there. So I could come up with the number, that's easy, that's all on the spreadsheet. But if I do, in order to update the website, I have to put a number there. That's the manual part. So, for example, all of the work that I just talked about, you know, switching it to the square root thing, whatever that curve is called. What's that curve called? Switching it to the square root thing, that's actually already done. I've already done that work. That was very easy. All I had to do was come up with the formula and then copy-paste it about 150 times. So, for example, right now, Ion Fury's linear value is 0.4, but it's this perk value is 4, whereas, for example, Jack and Daxter's linear value is 163, but it's this value is 729. You keep saying asymptomatic. I don't know. I gotta look this up. Because asymptomatic is actually a medical term. It is a logarithmic curve. Holy crap. I kept stuttering over saying that because I wasn't sure, but my brain was telling me it was... so yes, it is a logarithmic curve. So, here's the big question. I know this is... I know none of you give a damn about this, but here's the big question. And I'm going to be looking to YouTube comments about this as well. Do you guys want the linear curve or do you want the logarithmic curve? I've already given my opinion on this. But I am curious what you think. Whatever's easier. They are exactly the same amount of work. Literally exactly the same amount of work. I actually already have all of the spreadsheet filled out for both factors, like I was just sharing earlier. Like Age of Decadence right now has a 50.8 priority in the linear curve and a 254 priority in the logarithmic curve. Actually, funnily enough, that is where I got the idea, Imperial Star Destroyer. Although not from Dark Souls specifically, but a lot of video games have reduced... reduced... Oh god, there's a term for that. I can't think of it now. I actually can't think of it. I was just talking about this, and I can't think of the phrase. No, rate of return isn't right. I mean, it is, but that's not what I was thinking of. Hang on. Let me look at my history. Diminishing. Diminishing returns. Because diminishing returns is a really big and common thing in video games. So I was looking up how several video game designers use formulas to come up with diminishing returns. Unfortunately, most of those didn't apply to me because most of those involved more than 2 factors. I needed something that only adjusted 2 factors, where most of those are closer to like 5 or 6 factors. We're talking about math, Koida. We're basically trying to determine if the formula for priority is linear or logarithmic. If there is diminishing returns to the amount of people that put money towards a specific game. Or if they're not. As I've already said, I like the idea of logarithmic a little better. Obviously, a game that one person has put a lot of money towards is still going to be less priority than a game that 15 people have put less money towards. But this makes it so that the point of interception is closer. Or rather, it exists at all. Whereas in a linear curve, the point of interception doesn't exist. Because there's no point at which the 2 lines will meet. Well, it's funny you asked that, Dakota. You remember when you asked me how to figure out what the next stream is? We are solving that problem. We have solved that problem. All we're deciding is the specific method we're using. The advantage of linear is the amount of... So the advantage of linear is the individual component matters substantially less. So, for example... Yeah, that's... You have to do a math to make the list happen, Dakota. Come on, dude. The advantage of linear is one person's donation and contributions basically cannot overwhelm 10 people's. That's the advantage of linear. 15 people can band together to get a run going, whereas one person basically can't. That's the advantage of the linear method. Again, the linear method is what is live on the website right now. And again, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll notice there are quite a few games that have, you know, a decent chunk of money put towards them that are extremely low on the list because one person has put money towards them, or 2 people have put money towards them. Now, the advantage of the logarithmic is that there's an interception point at which an individual's contributions can eventually overcome the group's contributions. The group's contributions will still always be higher priority. And that makes sense. I do, for the sake of my show, I want as many people to be interested in a game as possible. So, for example, it is definitely a more higher priority for me to stream Thronebreaker than it is for me to stream... I'll just pick one out randomly down here. West of Loathing. However, the 80-20 rule also comes into account here. Because Thronebreaker has had $271 put towards it by 31 separate people. Whereas West of Loathing has had $202 put towards it by one person. You see why this is something I've been juggling for a while now. There is one other advantage to the linear method, and that's additional people matter more in the linear method. You might be thinking, well, how do you fix that? Well, actually, believe it or not, we do have a built-in method to kind of fix this. And that method is dealer's choice. So, for example, if Hates Disney there says, here's a donation, I'll put it to your choice, I will be able to look at the list and decide without, any automated system, well, hang on a second. I don't think that's actually true, Caspian. Hang on, let me double check that. I'm wrong. You haven't actually donated towards that yet. Holy crap. What was I in the middle of talking about? So what I could do is manually look at, for example, let's use the example I just used, which I've already forgotten the name of. West of Loathing. I could look at West of Loathing and say, well, hang on. A lot of money was just put towards that. Thank you very much, Caspian. Very much appreciate the sub. I could look at West of Loathing and be like, okay, obviously somebody really wants me to play that. He's dumped $202 on that run, right? So what I could do is I could then look at the dealer's choice things, and I could just say, well, let's just multiply that by 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And all of a sudden, Will King, Libertas, Libar, Von Bacon Eater, Super Kikoni, Tegrin, Thy End of Line, Diesel Edge, Final Cloud, Jaluto, and Max have suddenly put money towards West of Loathing, which means instead of being at, I think it's right now, 2 on the priority list, it would be 202, which would put it closer up to, like, the middle ground here. The problem with that is that relies on people putting money towards dealer's choice. That is the issue. And as Sinister Wing points out, it's also going to kind of exemplify the problem we already have. Where the things at the bottom... Nobody's going to look at the things on the bottom of the priority list. Because why would they? They're way down there. Nothing's going to catch your eye down there. Nobody cares about playing Tor, Sith Warrior, or Surviving Mars, or Resident Evil 3R, which comes out in less than a month, by the way. Or Suikoden 5, or Tales from the Borderlands, or Mega Man Zero, or Persona 5, or Mario Galaxy. No, nobody cares about that. They're going to look at the top of the list and say, oh, I'm going to put money towards one of those things. Because that's how people think. Not everyone, of course, but that is how that's going to work. Well, give me a second, Hazardous. I'll do the math right now. So hang on. So we got one game that has 450 by 3, and one game that has 180 by 10. So in that case, the 450 game would have priority, because it has a priority rating of 779, whereas the 180 game has a priority of 569. If we were to do it linearly, that would be... Give me 1 second here. If we were to do it linearly, the 180 game would get priority. With the exact example you just gave. You can see why I've been debating this quite a bit. Most of my last night was spent working on this. Yeah, I don't like the fact that these two both have their own issues and problems and positives and negatives. It's really frustrating, actually. Average them and add the lower? I'm gonna go with no. Hey, Rex. Quick, give an opinion on the thing I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. 25 minutes, apparently. See, now, who just said that? Mike Romano said, I wish there was a way to keep both lists up. That's what we already have. If you just want to track both variables, that was already how it worked. You could see how many funders there were, and you could see how many funding there was. Now, right now, as of this moment, that's not true. But if I were to revert it, then you would be able to track funding and funders separately. So, I mean, that was already a thing, is what I'm trying to say. This is Stellaris music. Which one do I like more? I don't really have an opinion, I don't think. I also don't know what the curve will look like until I've actually done it. This is part of why I haven't pulled the trigger on that. If I am to sit down and do it, then I'm going to have to sit down and do it. I can. Again, I've already got the numbers right here, but actually manually punching that in is going to take a minute or 3. I kind of wish I had a second person to do that. Data entry is so much easier with a second person, because then, the second person can just read out the numbers and I can go down the list. I've also noticed several people in chat disagreeing on like, directly disagreeing on the point here, which I do find fascinating. I could also... So there's a third option here. I'm not sure what I think of this third option, but I'm going to mention it. The third option is torpedo the priority list entirely and just go back to being a funding list. Thank you very much, Epic Da Vinci. Very, very much appreciate your sub, sir. And your 2 years of support. Thank you. If you happen to know where you want to put those 2 years, please let me know. And I will jot that down. It'll be awesome. By the way, Tazara... Now that I'm not in the middle of trying to talk about complex math, thank you. This isn't complex math. This is simple math. Thank you very, very much, Tazara. Thank you, Uchiha Daisuke. Very, very much appreciate and obliged, sir. As always, thank you. And I'll put that towards DAO. No, Bernian, I don't like the idea of doing that. Lord Choice. How much was it, Tazara? It looked like it was 30-something. 35, I want to say. I'm gonna have to check. Hang on! Just pull this up here. Pull up my own stream, pull my own log. Because you always send like 17,777 and you just leave me to do the math on it. Where's my log here? Oh, no, that's not how much you donated. That you donated $53.32. What is with you and weird numbers, sir? But thank you again very, very, very much, Tazara. Alright, now I'm kind of missing people's chat because I'm trying to catch up with donations. Let's rewind a second here. Let me break this down to the 3 options, okay? And I think I should probably throw up a straw poll on this, now that I'm thinking about it. And I'm going to leave the straw poll up for it. We're not going to decide this today because I want people, who aren't live to catch this. Hey, look, straw poll is still not working. The other straw poll. So we're going to use the new straw poll because the old straw poll isn't working. So there's 3 options. No, it's cool, Epic Da Vinci. We're just deciding. We've got our formulas, Epic Da Vinci. We're just deciding which one is higher priority, which one we're going to use. So, option 1 is to use the linear priority curve. Option 2 is to use the logarithmic priority curve. And option 3 is to only consider funding, to eject number of funders entirely. So... That's true, Epic Da Vinci. That's why we're debating. Do only allow via link. Do not allow multiple choices. There we go. Here's the poll. I'm going to leave this up for a few days. We're going to see what you people think. I would like your feedback. Please vote. Also, yes, thank you for those of you who noticed. This is actually just an image. I'm testing to see how it looks. I'm going to watch the VOD later, see what I think of it. I've been debating going ahead and getting rid of the green screen and setting up my own little studio thing. I haven't decided yet. That's why I'm seeing what it looks like. Anybody wants to give me their opinion on this, they can as well. It won't actually look like this, but I couldn't find an image of what it will look like, so I just kind of gave up and just threw together an image of games back there. I mean, we got Super Mario Bros. 3, right? That's what really matters. I guess that's it for the math thing. So yeah, Voot. Please Voot. Throw that up there. That was the first topic. Actually, that's technically the third topic. I do have one other relatively large-scale topic. In fact, I'm not even going to make a timestamp for this. You just missed it, Console Hut. Go watch the VOD. And go vote on the thing that you don't understand at all. Actually, it's...
Your dedication will be rewarded.
Just the description, all you need to know in the description is in the vote, is in the poll. The poll, like, I think I made it very clear. So, if anybody wants to, you know, to disagree with me on that, you are more than welcome to, but I tried to make it extremely clear what the three options were in the poll, so you don't have to watch the whole 30 minutes of the VOD. Also, Epic Da Vinci, you didn't tell me what you want to put that donation towards, or if you did, I didn't catch it. And thank you very, very much, Shaludo. Very much obliged and appreciate. Thank you, sir. And I have put that towards Resident Evil 3 Remake. And I'll put Epic Da Vinci's towards Oblivion. So, polls up. Everyone apparently understands it. Let's move on. The priority list you see on the website right now is using the linear curve. There was no curve at all before. It didn't exist. But right now, they're using the linear curve. Okay, next item on the list is, so this is stupid, but it's technically another poll. But I'm not going to actually poll you guys, I just want to hear you guys' thoughts. So something I've been tossing around as an idea for a while, for years, actually, at this point, is trying to figure out some method by which to make like a highlights reel of streams, right? Now, that's not happening because that's freaking impossible. That would require sitting down and converting all the files into an editable format, and then reading through all the files, and then editing them out, and then splicing them together. And that's assuming I don't do any special effects. That's just linking them up together. That would be absolutely ludicrous amount of time. It wouldn't be hard at all. It would just take a huge amount of time. And yeah, toss the highlight reel onto the main, I hate calling it that, the YouTube channel, the Ruminations channel. Because it's not the main channel, it's the secondary channel. Anyways, so that's a thing that we could do. Now, Yeah, I would need to hire an editor, and that is just a huge amount of time. So I discovered something recently. I've been thinking about this. There is a method by which this might be able to be made working. It relies entirely on you guys. Here's the idea. If you guys do a clip of one of my streams, I can actually pull that clip as an editable file. And I just have a 30-second highlight from my show. You get it? So, would you guys be interested in doing that? Because it would literally rely entirely on you. And you guys would have to decide what you think is worth clipping. And you would have to be on clipping. But if you think there's something that was particularly funny, or awesome, or heartwarming, or interesting, or worth discussing, or whatever, then clip it. What I'm thinking about doing is I could go ahead and put a new channel on Discord, too. Specifically for tracking those. I know we have the Lore Runner archives, but we could have a complete separate thing specifically for clips. So I can have a list of clips to go through and look at them and pull them and splice them together. And then we could just have a 5-minute video of your guys' clips. Because that would take very little time compared to the previous option. But again, it relies entirely on you guys. That's why I'm not just deciding, everyone, go do my bidding. No. I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on doing this. I'm seeing some decent feedback, but again, I do want to hear people's perspective on the VOD. So if you have any thoughts on this, please feel free to share in the YouTube comments if you're seeing this on YouTube. Exactly, Max Time. No dialogue, just clips. Minions! Go fetch the chocolate icing. I have no idea why I said that. So if I'm not mistaken, you can't clip on the phone, Hazardous. I don't know if that's your issue? How will clips be selected? Well, I mean, again, you guys will be the ones making the clips happen, and I will look at them and say, aha! And assuming that the clips are good, then they will go in. Yeah, there will probably be replicas. That's fine. That's not a big issue. It's very easy to tell when there's a replicated thing. As Rax pointed out, sometimes an event happens that's longer than 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever the clip time is. So it wouldn't actually be all that hard to, splice two together, for example. Ooh, chocolate cake. So Hazardous says he can't clip. Does anybody know why that would be? Because I am unaware of a setting about clipping. If there is such a setting, I do not know it exists. Oh God, Max Time, I'm so sorry. I believe 60 seconds is the high end for clips. I could be wrong, but I have seen clips that are 60 seconds. So I just accidentally made a clip of myself. Depends on the event, Corrales, but no, they don't need to be long. A clip could be 5 seconds. And it's really easy to chop down from 30 seconds to 5. So, doing a 30-second clip, you don't need to be like, I'll just get the 5 seconds. More pro tip, if you're going to join in on the clipping thing, always clip more rather than less. 100% of the time. You always want more raw material and then edit down than to not have enough later on. That's true for audio editing. That's true for video editing. So Hazardous says he doesn't have a clip button. I'm starting to think that Hazardous is lying to me. Why are you lying to me, Hazardous? Exactly, Berenian. I'm looking at my options right now, just kind of going down the list here. I'm not even seeing clipping as a thing anywhere. Apparently you can clip on your phone, so there you go. That is actually a thing. I wonder if I can clip on the phone. Hang on, let me pull up my stream really quick here. Hey, the Lore Runner's streaming right now. Hey, look, here's an ad for
That sizzle, that's the soundtrack of Chipotle.
Chipotle, apparently. I have a Chipotle ad, guys. Chipotle, for real. Now delivering. Okay, how do I clip? Nope, shut up me. Okay, here we go. Oh, there we go. It's just right there. Oh, dude, that's super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Awesome. So yeah, you can clip on the phone. There you go. Bam. That's one hassle out of the way. You know what's funny is I haven't had Chipotle in months. Because the nearest Chipotle is like 30 minutes that way. Anyways, it sounds like a lot of people are down with this. I'm gonna go ahead and just ask one of my people. You know, I'll do it later, but basically, let's set up a channel in Discord for archiving these, and yeah, let's do it, right? Okay, that's awesome. Let's do it. So what else do I got? So I talked about the clips. I talked about RimWorld. I talked about the formula thing, which we're still voting on. Sonic's been delayed. I think that's it. I think that's it for show news. We're finally done with show news. I knew this was going to be... Oh yeah, highlights. I like that idea, Hazardous. I knew this was going to be a long lore week, just because I had so much to talk about for the show. Thank you for being patient with me. Let's move on to random news. I do have a few bits of random news today. Just a few. Today we're going on World Domination! No, So, random news. Anthem 2.0 is happening. There's the link, as usual. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm thinking it's possible, but I'd say roughly a 1% chance of actually turning it into a good game. You know what's more likely, in my opinion? And this is going to sound negative, and please forgive me. I think it's more likely they will have a No Man's Sky situation than a FF14 A Realm Reborn situation. My opinion. Now you're probably thinking, what's the difference? Well, FF14 A Realm Reborn turned the worst MMO ever made into one of the best MMOs ever made. And No Man's Sky turned a pile of garbage into a game. So it is actually, I would say, legitimately possible that that Anthem might become a game, but that's as far as I'm willing to push that. Very, very low chance it's going to be worth a damn. Moving on. Half-Life Alyx not only has a release date, but has kept a release date, March 23rd, which is about 5 months. Wow, 5 weeks from now, give or take. So that's awesome. For those of you who care. I know some of you do. Sorry, I just don't. But I did want to comment on it that it was not pushed back, so that's awesome. It's funny that that's news, that something wasn't pushed back. Now, this is actually a fun one. Castlevania Season 3 has been announced. I didn't know we had a Season 2. Like, I'm not into anime, and I haven't been watching this series, so I'm just kind of like, okay, and... but apparently Season 3 is announced, and it's happening, and... they're still going with it. I'm actually curious about that. Now, here's a fun one. So, I heard that Sims 5 was announced, so I went looking into that. I couldn't find a reliable source about that. I saw a whole lot of news sites, dozens of news sites being like Sims 5, Sims, but no actual source. So you notice I'm not linking anything in chat, and that's why. I don't know how reliable this is, so I'm just going to basically move on. Is that it? I think that's actually it for random news. I mean, there's a couple other things I could mention. Activision Blizzard is now being pushed as a mobile gaming company by the investment circle, which is not a good thing. And in case you don't understand what I mean by that, I mean that people amongst the investment circle are now considering it a mobile gaming thing, and that's going to affect people who invest in the game going forward, and the market analysts, and blah, blah, blah. BioWare is too corporate, apparently. Roll my eyes. The IRS started to move in on Fortnite, and the only reason it made any news was because it was Fortnite. This actually isn't new, by the way. I've been aware of this for a while. So for those of you not aware, virtual currency is taxable exactly the same as real currency. That's been true for years. That's not new. However, they were clarifying something on the website, and it became unclear, and they went and corrected it to make it clear that, no, self-contained digital currency is not taxable. What I mean by that is if, you have, gold in WoW, or gold in FF14, or, Zenny in STO, that is not taxable. Even though you pay money for it, that is not part of taxable income. What is taxable is income that goes back and forth. In short, if you were to be able to, for example, buy gold in FF14 and then sell gold in FF14, that would be taxable, because now it's dipping in and out of real currency market, just like digital currency. Make sense? But yes, for those of you not aware, if you trade in bitcoins, you should probably track that, because that is taxable income. Yeah. Anyways, no hazardous, because that involves... Basically, that is a way to try and bypass that, but at the same time, it doesn't really apply in generally the same way hazardous. So, long and the short answer is no. And I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, but the answer is no. Now, that being stated, if you decide to make thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that kind of a thing, the IRS is going to notice, and they're going to come down to you like a ton of bricks. You're going to wish the mafia came after you if the IRS comes after you. Like, instead. So don't go overboard with it if you are doing any kind of laundering, because that is effectively money laundering at that point. Anyways. That's all I got for random news. I do, however, have to talk about politics in gaming. Let me get a timestamp really quick. Now I know what you're expecting. You're expecting me to talk about the recent comments by Tim Sweeney, which half the internet went on fire for. Or you're expecting me to give my opinion on politics in gaming. Or you're expecting me to discuss how there's different types of politics in gaming or whatever. None of that's happening. This is admittedly Hushy Love. That's what this is. We're talking about Hushy Love. He is now the topic of the entire stream. Now, I don't know Hushy Love that well. Thank you very much, however, for the sub. Very much appreciate it. Now, Hushy Love is made of solid adamantite, right? So it's really hard for him to move. So he constantly needs to keep himself oiled. So what he does is he has an oil elemental just kind of constantly surrounding him at all times. So he is fully moving like, yeah, I've got this. Let's do it. And the problem is he's extremely weak to fire for reasons you could probably think of. So what he's got is a second elemental, which is a water elemental, and a third elemental, which is a wind elemental, which is trying to keep the fire away from him at all times. Like, one time he went into McDonald's and got a little bit too close to the fry cooker, and I was like, ah! But then the air elemental was like, whoosh! And there was just fries everywhere. Like, fries and grease splattering the walls. They weren't very happy with him. He's not allowed at McDonald's anymore. I started thinking about how I wanted to discuss this topic, because I have a theory, and that's actually what I'm talking about. Like I said, this is admittedly a clickbait. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm horrible, but this is a clickbait thing. Because I don't think this is a topic that should be discussed. Now, I'm going to try and explain myself there. But if I was to talk about this like any other news person, I would sit here and go ahead and just tell you what I think about this. Here's what I think about politics in gaming. Or I could tell you what I think about, because lately it seems to be a very severe stance, a binary stance, I might even say, about no politics in gaming or all politics should be allowed in gaming. And I've never heard anyone ever give a comment on that wasn't all or nothing. That's including individual people as well as, websites and whatnot. So I threw this together. Now, this is my theory. I'm going to cover my face here. Nobody likes to see my face. There we go. I'm going to cover my face here. You see this? Let's assume that these fruit, because I love using fruit as a thing, are the different things that you care about. And let's assume that the level of care, which is shown on the y-axis here, is exactly how much you are willing to tolerate or care about that particular topic. You with me? So, for example, you're pretty okay with bananas. You don't like apricots that much. You hate apples. You don't even want to hear about apples. You love oranges, though. You firmly believe in oranges. So you've got a lot of tolerance for oranges. But you really hate grapes and you only kind of like pomegranate. In other words, this, I think, is a more accurate representation of politics in gaming than a linear binary choice. Just look at the fruits and think of each of those fruits as a topic, a specific agenda, something that you do or do not care about, right? Thus, how high it is up on the list is how much you are willing to tolerate that being shoved into your life. By people, by news, by social media, by games, by books, by television, by movies. You with me? Thus, all of us have different tolerance levels, that's the line, for each specific topic. And these can move, of course. These are not static. So, for example, let's say that over time you start to listen to look into the apples situation. You're like, maybe I kind of like apples. So your apples thing kind of rises up a little bit. But let's say at the same time, people are just shoving oranges into your face constantly. You can't get away with it. It's all over social media. It's in every movie. Virtually every journalist is constantly talking about oranges, and you're just sick of it, and your tolerance for oranges just plummets. Right? I bet a lot of you can appreciate both of those concepts. This is a malleable list. As you can see, that's why I designed this way, so I can actually adjust it on the fly to show you how, over time, our opinions and our preferences can change. And bit by bit, our tolerances can move up and down, but not overall, but for a specific topic. This is my actual topic. My actual topic here is that people who are, oh my god, I can't stand politics in gaming, or politics should always have a place in gaming. To be perfectly blunt, I think that is a false dichotomy. I think that is an inaccurate statement. You have certain agendas that you are more tolerant of, that you are cool with being in gaming. And then some people have agendas that they are not cool, and they are not tolerant with being in gaming. And I've been thinking about this for a bit now. This is not a new idea. But I read a lot of those articles which are exploding about Tim Sweeney and how dare he is, and he's horrible and stupid and awful. And I found myself thinking, well, that's interesting, because they seem to be very against him on this point, but in favor of him on this other point, because the agendas of the 2 points are different. Now, anybody who knows me may know that I myself tried to make a distinction between, I think a viewer came up with the term political intrigue and, politics, right? To try and describe the variance between the two. Because I love Final Fantasy Tactics, which, by the terminology it's usually used, is not a political game at all. It's just a game that has a lot of politics. And you see the problem. So I myself, you missed it, Uther. We're already done talking. We're already done. But I myself said, I love politics and gaming, and I had to stop using that phrase because people misunderstood what I meant, because we use the exact same word to describe both completely separate scenarios. So I started calling, I love political intrigue in games like Final Fantasy Tactics or Final Fantasy 12 or Tactics Ogre, to describe that kind of thing, which is an extremely different topic than what we're talking about here. But I really, really believe that this is a better way to explain politics and gaming than anything else. And I'm going to just kind of adhere to this concept going forward. Which basically brings me down to my point. You know, I've been asked several times, Lore, what do you think of politics and gaming? This is what I think about politics and gaming right here. I'm sick of it being this weird, unnatural, binary nonsense thing. Yakuza 0, it's another good game that has political intrigue. World of Warcraft has political intrigue. FF14 kind of does. They go back and forth. Heaven's Word had some of those. Well, that's because you have... Well, go watch the VOD, Uthor. I'm not going over it again. But do vote, please, Uthor. In fact, here, let me get the vote out in chat here really quick here. Voot. Voot. Please, voot. Well, that's a good question, Tigzar, but if I legitimately hate pomegranates, I mean, okay, I'd probably play the game for the show if I had to, because that's my job. But as far as independently, if I really hated pomegranates, would I still play the game? I would be a lot less inclined to. If it's a game that I think I would enjoy, at best, it's the kind of game that I would pick up, like, on what I call super sale. Actually, PAX came up with that term. Super sale. You know, when it goes up for 75% off or 90% off. So, a few years from now on a Steam summer sale kind of a thing. That's the kind of... That's how that would go for me personally, because I'm just not into pomegranates. Actually, I love pomegranates. I used to live in a place down in Southern California. We had our own pomegranate tree in the background. And the backyard, and it was, oh my god, it was so good. We'd harvest those suckers, just eating the seeds. We made pomegranate jelly. Oh, it was marvelous. I feel so sad because, you know, that doesn't happen anymore. You don't get that anymore. Anyways. Well, no, people make perfect sense. People like to simplify. That is the simplest, easiest way to look at people, ironically. People prefer to simplify. Rather than actually thinking about a thing on a case-by-case basis, they prefer to make a rule, basically. And they apply the rule, and therefore they don't have to think about it, because all they have to do is apply the rule. See, Huthor believes that everything is binary, apparently. I'm actually done here, but I'm going to let Huthor make his point, because I'm actually curious what he thinks here. What episodes are we looking at today? How many votes do we have? Let's see that number. 46 Voots. Yeah, we're going to leave that up for a bit. Voot, please Voot. I'm going to copy this into Discord really quick. It's actually more likely that I am the alien, Consulhot, and Huthor is a normal human. One way or another, there's an alien thing going on there. Yes, send to everyone. I suppose you could argue that we're both alien to each other. It's a valid way to think of that. I mean, I love black and white. Look at me. Hey, Platy, do you have any buttons to hit on your stream, by the way? I'm just curious. Alright, Huthor. There you go. I'm an alien, and Huthor is also an alien. We're actually both alien to everyone else. I haven't played Black and White since it came out, so I got nothing on that one. No, Platy, that's not what I'm asking. I'll look at Platy to see if she can figure out what I'm asking. I'm going to chop off the local recording. I think we're done here.